Tom Brady is going to get paid a monster 10-year, $375 million deal from Fox Sports. So, Fox Sports deal to make Tom Brady its lead NFL game analyst after he retires is for 10 years and $375 million, the Post has learned. And by the way, for any normal average human being out there, making 100 grand a year as an analyst would be awesome because you're just talking, right? So imagine if you could just make 100 grand per year just talking. Imagine making just $50,000 a year for just talking. And yet Tom Brady is making $375 million in 10 years. Divided by 10, it's, it's disgusting amounts of money. Okay? It is disgusting amounts of money. Man, there's so much money in terms of what is available to people in terms of entertainment. It is the largest contract in sports casting history as it more than doubles both CBS Tony Romo and ESPN's Troy Aikman an average annual salary of $18 million per season. Now here's also the thing too. Personally, it makes a lot of sense to pay someone like Tom Brady, who's basically the best in his field, to actually talk about the sport that he is one of the best athletes in it. Okay? One of the smartest athletes in it. So, technically speaking, it makes perfect sense that out of anyone else, him getting paid massive amounts of money makes perfect sense. But still, these numbers almost make you want to go puke, right? Because it is just so much money. So after losing Joe Buck and Aikman to ESPN, Fox wanted to make a splash. Buck, 15.5 million, and Aikman, 18 million, will make a combined 33.5 million. Brady will make 37.5 million per year to team with Kevin Burkhardt. Besides being Fox Sports' number one game analyst, he will also be a company ambassador who will help in sponsorships and promotional activities. In the meantime, Fox still has to find a number one game analyst for this year and maybe for a few more seasons. Fox, which has two of the next three Super Bowls, including this February, has Greg Olsen as its leading candidate. However, it is unclear how Olsen would feel about being a placeholder until Brady takes over. The network had thought about NBC's Drew Brees as a possibility, but with the Brady signing, that may not be an option anymore. Fox first made the Brady announcement on his earnings call Tuesday morning, and Fox Sports initially declined comment before later adding a statement. What has been reported isn't an accurate description of the deal, and we have not released details beyond what was disclosed on our quarterly earnings call, Fox corporate spokesman Brian Nick said. Nick did not specify what was inaccurate, and there have been various reports about the nature of their deal. In bringing in Brady, Fox surely made the NFL happy. The NFL just did deals with Fox, ESPN, CBS, NBC, and Amazon for $110 billion that will extend into the 2030s. The pressure of having the NFL, which accounted for 75 of the top 100 rated shows on television last year, is what is driving the prices of the announcers up. That's crazy when you think about it. If that's true, that is absolutely insane. So, out of the top 100 rated shows, 75% of them deals with the NFL. Like, that's insane. Before the new contracts were signed, ESPN tried to lure Romo from CBS as a salvo in the negotiations. This resulted in Romo signing a 10-year, $180 million contract. From there, ESPN brought in Peyton and Eli Manning, with Peyton believed to be earning more per year than Romo, though no exact numbers are known because it is a production deal with Peyton's Omaha Productions. The Mannings only do 10 games a year in an alternative broadcast. This offseason, the shakeout continued with Amazon's arrival. First, it signed the legendary Al Michaels as his play-by-player before pursuing Aikman as his color man. After Aikman went to ESPN, Amazon was going to offer Super Bowl champion Rams coach Sean McVay $20 million per year to call the games. But he stayed on the sidelines instead. Michaels will be teamed with ESPN college analyst Kirk Herbstreit. This left Fox Sports with a chair to fill. They have always prided themselves on having the biggest names, including Hall of Famers like Aikman, Michael Strahan, and Terry Bradshaw. They also have been willing to be patient. In this case, they will be because there's no real telling as to when Brady, who will be 45 in the fall, will finally stop playing. When he does, he'll be Fox Sports' lead game analyst at nearly $40 million a year. And think about that for a second. He hasn't even retired yet. And yet they guaranteed him $40 million a year. It's crazy. Let's see. Let's check out some of the comments. It is totally ridiculous. Don't understand how these guys command so much money. Maybe they are out there, but I don't know one person that watches because of the announcers. They watch the best game. Only guy ever worth turning into was John Madden. Yeah, if anyone enhanced the experience, it was Madden. I like a lot of the current guys, but yeah, the money is outrageous. It shows how much money the NFL makes. And here's the thing, right? And this makes you understand a little bit more as to, as like a professional athlete, the amount of money that you can make as a pro athlete is probably disgusting, right? Because if you're just able to talk about the sport and make this disgusting amount of money, like it's just completely outrageous. Like this person said, it is completely outrageous. Imagine making $40 million a year because you're talking about football. Okay? Think about that for a second. People would love $50,000 a year. People would love $100,000 a year. 40 million a year? Why? Like that kind of number literally makes no sense, right? But this is also the interesting thing, right? Because then you look at the NFL and you see them paying athletes a lot of money. You see these news companies paying announcers a lot of money. Then you go look at a sport like the UFC, where a lot of the fighters in the UFC are barely getting paid anything. The announcers are probably making way more than the actual majority of the athletes. It's like, it's so weird, right? Like, why is NFL able to garner so much money compared to other sports? Like, it almost doesn't even make sense. Because again, we're not even talking about necessarily just like how much these athletes are getting paid, because these athletes are all getting paid disgusting amounts of money. The fact that you can be an announcer, that you could just talk about a sport and make this kind of money is crazy to me, right? Like, what do you even do in your life if you're making $40 million a year for talking? Like, how do you live your life? How do you go about your day to day if you know that you're going to be making $40 million a year from just talking? It's crazy. Let's see. Wow, it's amazing to see the money being thrown at the guys in the booth. What would announcers like Jack Buck, Kurt Gowdy, etc. be paid today? As long as people continue to pay the insane cable bills, etc., only the fans to blame. I think it would be boring, big mistake. Not a fan of Brady's, but good for him if he can get the payday. I hope they pair him with Eli Manning to keep him grounded. What caught my eye was Joe Buck for 15.5 million. That would suggest Brady is with 60 million per year. Seriously, Joe Buck's story says anyone can get lucky and make it big, even if most people don't like your performance. I'm going to assume he'll be forced to go woke, kind of like the way Drew Brees was. You remember when he rode over in less than that 24 hours, went from supporting the national anthem to groveling to the leftists for forgiveness. At what point he knew he has his network gig lined up, and I'm sure NBC had a discussion with him. I won't be watching unless I can get a radio broadcast. I'd rather have a check in list, and I never thought it could get any worse than that, but Fox figured out a way. Please go away forever. Pair him with Gronk. So stupid. People don't watch football games to hear announcers. Giant fans are watching the games no matter who is announcing, and the same for every other team fan. I couldn't imagine a Giants fan saying, I'll watch the Houston games today because Brady's announcing. The network has more money than brains. I agree. I agree that the network has more money than brains. The only thing is, I understand them hiring him as an announcer because he's a very skilled quarterback, right? So getting his perspective as to like how these games are played makes sense. But paying him $40 million to be an NFL analyst makes absolutely no sense. Like it's just so much money. Oh my, I was millions off. LOL, 37 mil a year? Good God Almighty. I agree. Phillies girl. There isn't a sports analyst alive who is must see TV. Brady's contract is beyond obscene. As for your comment about Giselle, she is somewhat attractive, but at 5'11 and 121 pounds, I think she is much too thin. Okay, that's kind of weird commenting on someone's appearance. Not infatuated by Leonardo DiCaprio's Conquered Used Luggage, so it's not worth a cent to me. Okay, that's weird. I guess talking about Giselle. A lot of money for an unknown commodity never found him interesting. Will be surprised if he has anything interesting to say. Probably money wasted by Fox. Man in the Arena is pretty compelling. He might do a decent job. I just don't get all this money being thrown at broadcasters. Football fans are going to tune in regardless. See, that's my viewpoint, right? But who knows? Maybe these news companies know something. Maybe they have like access to data that we just don't understand, right? Maybe they see like someone who has like a massive personal brand like Tom Brady, where he could end up just garnering a massive fan base that will actually end up watching because of him, right? His legacy is cemented. I'm sure his commentary will be just as great. Good for him. And again, yeah, no matter what, good for him. I mean, props to anyone who can literally be making 40 million a year for talking. Props to anyone. Absurd. Romo, Aikman are not worth their money contracts, and Brady certainly is not worth more than the combined amount the other two are getting. Romo is annoying, Aikman is okay, and Brady, from what I have heard him talk on his ESPN show and the golf event, is that he is just average at best. The only one who is worth any amount was and will always be John Madden. He brought insight and humor and added to the broadcast. How much would he get paid based on these absurd deals? It seems like a lot of people like John Madden. Let's see. This is insane money, and quite frankly, no one is worth what he's getting. And I know he's the GOAT at quarterback, but as an announcer, he's far from being even good at this point. Not sure how the networks make money. Not sure I've ever turned on a football game because of the broadcasting team. Not sure why anyone would have thrown away money on PSLs. Not sure that Black Lives Matter isn't. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here's the thing. The reason why these networks are able to pay so much money is because they end up doing like massive, massive, massive brand deals, right? So we're talking about like massive companies that want to show their audience their product, their brand constantly. And we're talking about companies that literally have marketing budgets in the billions of dollars. Okay, so that's how they really make their money. It's not really providing necessarily a product. It's more about providing space to show other people's products and or business. It's the same reason why a TV show, let's say on like YouTube, versus a TV show on traditional TV, will make vastly different amounts of money. Okay, like let's say that you have like a 12 episode TV show that you put on YouTube. If it's super viral, everybody loves it, has high CPM, all that kind of stuff. Let's say that you get like a million views per episode, and it's like a 12 episode show, right? So 12 million views for like a season, right? Okay, maybe you make 100 grand from that. Maybe you'll make 50 grand. Maybe you'll make a million from that, right? Depending on your CPM. If you had that exact same show with the exact same viewer numbers on like a network, like on Fox, on any other thing, right? That same show with that same amount of numbers, like as in terms of like people watching it, could potentially make 50 million, 100 million, maybe even 500 million dollars for that season because the amount of money behind it is so disgusting, right? And that's the thing that people need to understand, right? Sometimes it is smarter to do something for less people for more money because of what is actually available to you, right? Now, if you're like trying to like grow a brand or something, it makes perfect sense to go with YouTube. But like, let's use like a different example, right? Let's say that you created like a documentary, right? And you put that onto YouTube and that got like 10 million views on YouTube, right? Maybe you make 100 grand. Maybe you make $1 million again, right? After the 10 million views, right? But let's say that you sell that movie to like Netflix. Netflix could offer you big money. They could offer you 10 million, 20 million, 30 million for that documentary without anyone even ever seeing that video that you made. And they could end up having it on their platform on Netflix, not a single person making it, but you sold it to them for 10, 20, 30 million dollars because the money behind them that you potentially have access to is massive. So it's just something to really like think about. It's like a different way of potentially making a lot of money, right? Like if you're able to think of like a crazy awesome TV show idea or movie or whatever and you already make it, go sell it to some sort of like platform like Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever, because you could probably make a disgusting amount of money by doing something like that just because of how much money is behind those big businesses, right? But when you do stuff like on yourself, by yourself, like the money just is not the same. And like again, this is such a disgusting amount of money, it's crazy. Let's see. Do they not realize how many people hate this guy? I'll be tuning into Fox Sports Deportes for the games of theirs that I want to see. Interesting. Who's better than Brady? Nobody. Interesting. Interesting. Feel free to give your thoughts. Personally, to me, if I was making $40 million just talking, one, I'd get. Well, I mean, I don't have any debt, but here's the thing: if you were to actually get $40 million per year, this is how you should manage that money so that you don't end up going broke. One, getting out of debt. Two, creating an emergency fund. Three, automatically investing towards your future. And then four, basically doing whatever you want to do after that, because if you're guaranteed 40 million after like per year, well, 40 million per year for like 10 years, you're pretty much golden as long as you just don't spend all the money. Like you are basically golden for the rest of your life, straight up. If you want to learn how to get out of debt and manage your money, go to 40inbox.com. This is absolutely insane.